Hello, this demo will showcase the new AWS Security Hub integration features to the AWS Service Management Connector for ServiceNow. The AWS Service Management Connector for ServiceNow allows ServiceNow end users to provision, manage, and operate AWS resources natively via ServiceNow. ServiceNow end users can now view and manage security findings as incidents or problems via AWS Security Hub. Now let's go in and dive deep to see how this integration works. Okay, so you see I have a security finding in the AWS Security Hub console. I'm going to also show you through pre-configuration that same finding that was mapped into ServiceNow within the connector scoped app, and those findings have the same details as you saw in the Security Hub console, from the severity level, the workflow status, as well as the description. Now I've pre-configured this environment to automatically create incidents on certain types of findings, and this finding here fits that category. Okay, so if I scroll down, you'll see that that incident is related to this particular finding in the scoped app. So if I go into the incident, I'll see some details. I'm going to open that record. I already have a caller, the description, short description, and the other description is also pre-populated. Now our urgency in ServiceNow incidents is mapped to the severity in AWS security findings. So if I decide to change that severity and say, hey, this is kind of a high issue, it's going to automatically pre-configure the priority in the ServiceNow incident. If I put in some work notes, and I'll just put in some demo notes here, and then I hit update on that particular incident, what you'll also see is that since I changed the urgency to high, the severity label also for the security finding that's stored in ServiceNow is changed to high. And if I go to the AWS console and do a quick refresh, I'll also see that that particular severity has also changed to high. And you see it's in a color coding fashion. So let's go back into ServiceNow, shall we? And let's look at this. And we see that multi-factor authentication needs to be enabled. So we've gotten this issue. It was acknowledged and addressed. And why don't we go in to that record and incident and show how we can resolve that issue as well. So what I can do is I can put some resolution information in. We've worked the problem. We figured out what the problem was. And then I'll just say that it was resolved and give some notes. If I click resolve here for this particular issue, the disruption in service has been addressed. The finding has been addressed. The workflow status is changed for the security finding here as resolved. And if I go into Security Hub and do a quick refresh, I'll also see that the workflow status within the ticket is also as in a resolved state, even though the record is still active. So what we've done is from a pre-configuration is we've given a dual syncing between AWS and configured and identified mappings. Now a ServiceNow administrator can also go into the system properties, and once everything is configured and the accounts are opted in for this integration, for that they can determine what types of security findings they want to bring in. Do they want to bring in critical high, medium low, or informational? And as you can see, I've deselected informational. I just want things that are kind of important to kind of narrow down the noise. I could even change it to where I only want to show critical or high findings and create those as incidents or even problems. The other thing that we do is that you have 4 options of how you want to sync. You can choose by default with the connector to do nothing, and what we'll do is we'll auto-populate the findings into ServiceNow, and then you can manually determine whether or not a finding should be created as an incident or a problem. Or the option that I chose for this particular demo is to create incidents for those 4 different types of security findings: critical, high, medium, and low. You can also choose to just create problems depending on your governance policies, or you could choose to create both. And we give that flexibility. So if an incident's created automatically and it becomes a problem, you can also then at that point create a problem for it. So that's the overview of the demo per se. And if we go back to the presentation, what we can look at is that to get started with this, you have to install, there are 3 different major steps. One is you have to configure the AWS environment. And we have additional integrations with the connector for Service Catalog, Systems Manager, as well as config with the CMDB. And so we provide a CloudFormation template that sets those baseline permissions and includes the features and the components that are needed for the AWS Security Hub integration, such as the SQS queue that will poll and bring in the findings, as well as a CloudWatch event that can trigger findings that can be populated. The next step after you set up the AWS environment is to go into the ServiceNow environment, opt in your accounts, select that you want the integration to sync between AWS Security Hub, make sure all the configurations are there from a baseline account perspective, and we have our public documentation gives you a step-by-step on how to achieve that. And the final step is to validate. So similar to what I've done in the demo, is you validate that everything that you have stated is working as expected. So that concludes our demo. If you have any questions, feel free to email us at aws-servicemanagement-connector@amazon.com. We would love to, if you have any issues, or even if you have any feedbacks, how we can improve this integration. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your time.